Although Shaggoths are considered pretty much past their prime at this point, they're generally outclassed by monsters which have been power crept up on the tier level, although they are still quite good in a number of ways, and some of the new tricks, I say new, they're like 6 months old at this point from Champions of Chaos, definitely benefit them, and with the focus now less so on Marauder Horsemen and Hellstrider spam, I've decided to take this and try it out. Something I've tried a couple of times, but here we're going to use it against Coop's Daemons. So I do have a couple of Marauder Horsemen, and they're even Slaanesh Marauder Horsemen. No Hellstriders, though. We've got 2 Shaggoths supported by a Nurgle Sorcerer Lord, so that's the trick, right, is to have some healing. This guy on the War Shrine here has incredible self-healing. He's got this Crown of Everlasting Conquest, of course. Also, the Giver of Abundant Glory gives AoE passive healing once he gets some kills, and also has active healing with Fleshy Abundance, obviously, as well. Front line of just basic Marauders here. A couple of aspiring champions. I figured the armor and the magic damage, high stats would fare fairly well in this matchup, as long as they didn't come up against, like, you know, Exalted... yeah, Exalted Bloodletters or Exalted Demonettes, something like that. Severed Claw here as well for an Elite Halberd. And then that's pretty much it. Fairly small elite build here. I'm going to be relying quite a bit on those expensive units. For Koops, he's coming in with 5 blues for an infantry line. He's got Seekers and Fleshhounds on each flank. And then in the sky here, he's got the double Zinch Bird, Golden Griffin Regiment of Renown, and then the Zinchian Demon Prince, specifically Zarivik. Yes, the custom Demon Prince specifically for Demons of Chaos in multiplayer. Anyway, yeah, obviously the Slaanesh Javelins do have magic damage, which is the main reason why I took them here. A little bit of physical resistance doesn't matter at all in this matchup, since all demons have magic damage on all their attacks, but the Strider certainly helps, Immunopsychology as well. They're not too expensive of an upgrade either, but mostly I was looking for the magic damage. Initially, I'm going to just rush in, you know, YOLO straight in with the Marauders, the Shaggoths, move over to somewhat try and protect this flank. Also, somewhat unintended here, I must admit, but because this forest is going to block a lot of these shots, Koops is going to end up winning this frontline fight in many cases. Blues are more expensive than Marauders, obviously, at 500 points versus, what is it, 375 for Marauders? And they're quite good. High numbers, the shooting, everything means that they will just beat the Marauders in melee, which is going to be painful, but then these trees will block any of the remaining shots. They're also going to waste a lot of shots here, but definitely making a big mistake with this Shaggoth keeping it away. You can see I tried to pull away for a cycle charge here. Koops catch me nice. Gaze of Fate has also been utilizing the magic of the Golden Griffin to great effect. Down spells going off there. You saw that Searing Doom earlier. Now Gehenna's Hounds, followed up by Fleshhounds. Very beautiful stuff there. Just wrapping up and enveloping a number of my units over here. Marauders getting collapsed again. We're going to see a little bit of, what is that? Gate. Infernal Gateway. I'm going to say like Gate of Hellfire or something. No, that's not quite right. But I will say the Aspiring Champions came through and blended a unit of blues with absolutely no problems. Obviously, the blues don't have the armor piercing of the stats to really touch the champs there, especially the Aspiring Claw with their Zinchian Barrier, of course. Let's get in here close, though, and watch the heavyweights try and escape here as they've been slugging it out. 2v2, but with support on the Demons' side. Now they're going to be exposed to a little bit of blue fire. Speaking of blue fire, though, for Koops, I mean, he does have the Infernal Gateway, although Winds of Magic-wise, I probably wouldn't be using that at all on the infantry I have, even against the Aspiring Champions, which are quite expensive. It's probably going to be better to just maneuver and try and side shot with this blue fire, I think. I don't know if it'll actually kill the models of the Aspiring Champions, but it'll certainly deal quite a bit of HP damage. And, yeah, just in general is going to be a little bit more reliable damage because of their low model count and sort of heroic status. The Aspiring Champs really aren't going to take a lot of damage from that Infernal Gateway. They'll get knocked around by it, but they have a lot of HP, so here we're going to see another one unleashed. And just watch. I mean, you can see they get staggered here. We'll keep it in nice and close. You can see up close their animations. They're getting staggered. Some of them are getting locked in there, which positionally is nice, but if we zoom out and look at their HP, they're really not taking much damage at all from that, so it's a reasonably expensive spell. Again, I think Winds of Magic-wise, it would be much more efficient to just be spamming blue fire. Not as exciting, certainly, visually, but would be more effective at the end of the day. But let's see. Ninja's still got plenty of magic unleashed, and pretty much all of my Marauders have run for the hills. It's now just this death box, although I did manage to get the Shaggoths in, so they're getting some nice passive healing as well. If we take a look here, one of them just ran out of the area of effect. That Giver of Abundant Glory there, healing a 0.1% HP per second. Given the Shaggoths' high overall HP, not ridiculously high, but it's decent. Certainly lower than a lot of other monster types in their cost range. I mean, even in a build like this, arguably, Giants might be better, although certainly against Tzeentchian shooting, they are somewhat vulnerable. Shaggoths just have less HP overall, though, and they do have armor and scaly skin missile resistance of 25%, which is pretty good. Definitely helps them shrug off damage of low-tier shooting. I say low-tier shooting. Blues is quite damaging, typically, their shooting attacks, but nothing you can't get past, certainly. Let's see, some more Infernal Gateway going to be unleashed here. And these Tzeentchian birds are definitely no pushovers. Let's check out Zavaric's stats himself. Armor piercing damage. He's also got Warp Flame on contact and flaming attacks, which means he is going to increase the damage, obviously, that he does just with his own baseline weapon strength by, what is it, 10% every time he gets a hit. Whatever Warp Flame is, yeah, 10%. So, as well as lowering the armor, some great synergy, honestly, with Tzeentchian and Khorne units. But they're having a tough time. The thing about the Nurgle Shrine is that it's an absolute meatbag. So besides the healing that it's getting, it's got 12,000 base HP. Means its healing cap is also, just by raw number value, very high. So it has a great capacity to heal itself, and it's tough to take down. I mean, obviously, combat stats are not amazing, really quite poor. Not that great of armor either, so it is pretty vulnerable given its slow speed to shooting. But here, where I was able to clean up the blues, they're relatively limited ammunition. We'll bait out some of the shots, waste a lot of them with the Marauders, and then just kind of grind through with this death box. But I do want to point out a little bit of the micro positioning here. Fights like this, you might think, are just evolving into degenerate blob fights, and while that is true to a degree, it is important that you stay on top of your targeting. So, like a few examples here, you know, my aspiring champions, obviously they're not going to be able to chase the Seekers once the Seekers run away and catch them, right? So I need to make sure I'm on top of issuing attack orders, just whatever is closest, so that I make sure they keep doing attack animations, or like if they're getting mass blocked, for example, I need to make sure that they're just doing what attack animations on whatever they can get their hands on, more or less. Likewise, you know, blocking as much as possible, even again on a micro sense, like keeping your camera up close and microing, like, okay, I'm going to try and block the angle of the Seekers with these halberds so they can't get a big rear charge and do a bunch of armor piercing damage, or you know, countercharging the aspiring champions into the Fleshhounds. They don't get as good of a charge, right? I mean, in a way, it is a degenerate blob fight. I will agree with you there to a degree, but at the same time, that micro, if that makes sense, the small scale micro of character fights and small unit tactics, it's very important. Like here, you can see I'm doing just that. A little bit of over chasing with the Severed Claw should probably just keep them closer. But I was able to at least force Koops to reposition and not charge straight in from that back angle. And now instead he's forced to reposition and potentially charge in through the back of his own troops, which isn't going to be nearly as efficient. He does have to charge in with the Fleshhounds there, and they end up taking quite a bit of damage. The Seekers, you can see, don't really get a proper angle to attack in here. So, again, small unit tactics, very important, and in character fights especially. I talk about this all the time on my channel, but 2v1 character fights, 3v1, 3v2, generally the numbers will win, and I mean this includes single entities as well as characters. I should specify just all single entity fights, really. Like here, right? you know, the Golden Griffin might actually be mass blocked from getting to... looks like maybe not. It's hard to say, but just in general, making sure that they're getting attack animations on targets that they can. You know, switching targets in between. Like here, I'm also switching targets with my Sorcerer Lord, so I can try and apply poison to both of these targets at the same time if possible. Certainly easier said than done, given the attack animations getting distracted here attacking Fleshhounds. But, I mean, at this point, Marauder Horsemen come back. They've been leading some Fleshhounds on a Wild Goose Chase and generally getting some pretty good damage output with their Javelins. That's the Shaggoth. Also done quite a bit of damage and just about got to its healing cap. Just about to finish off Zaverick as well. So it turned out to be a grind in the end, but certainly this build, from my perspective, was set up to grind well. And despite Coop's best attempts at cycle charging, which are certainly valiant, able to just fend him off here with overwhelming healing, and it's kind of to be expected, but at the same time, yeah, it's one of those things where Chaos has so much going for them that I think even as stuff gets nerfed, people will probably still continue to find very strong ways to play them, and particularly the Nurgle Sorcerer as a Lord option, even in some matchups with potential for missiles, like against a Lizardman, for example. I think he would maybe be a safe pick. He'd be a bit vulnerable to other big monsters, potentially, but he has enough HP. If you have reaction forces or support units, you can get them to him in time to make sure he survives those kind of engagements. Again, Lizardman's armor-piercing shooting is relatively limited. You do have a lot of shooting in general, but I would just think that he could probably tank through quite a bit of it. But like in this matchup as well, Daemons relatively limited shooting, not really, I mean, besides flamers maybe, not really a lot of true armor piercing shooting, so relatively safe bet to bring, although certainly, I guess, had Coops gone with like a flamer kite build, maybe I would have had some problems, although that's where the Shaggoth's speed comes into play. Unlike, let's say, a giant, which is painfully slow and can trundle along next to the Nurgle Sorcerer Lord, but can't go anywhere else, the Shaggoths can reach out and project power a little bit with their mobility, try and chase stuff around, maybe pressure the Flamers into moving. Flamers themselves aren't nearly as fast, so you could definitely catch them. But certainly with like a wide Demons build, maybe with Flamers, I would have had some problems potentially. But anyway, yeah, Marauder Horsemen, again, same thing, pressure, speed, that magical shooting attack also pretty good. The Aspiring Champs, I mean, certainly the regular ones don't put out a lot of damage. They're here mostly just to tank, but the Aspiring Claw are so strong, man, with that armor-piercing anti-large sort of elite status. They can definitely grind units down, and super great to support with that Nurgle Shrine. Great for supporting, you know, Shaggoths in monstrous fights as well. Yeah, these two poor Tzeentchian birds had a lot of anti-large armor-piercing elite to go through here with these 3 units, all with Nurgle healing. Yeah, although I will say they managed to get some value back. I mean, it makes sense with a lot of healing kind of inflating those, but at the same time, you still have to do that damage, right? Seekers also were able to pay for themselves. Fleshhounds, generally very cost-effective. The Blues are an interesting kind of letdown. Only one of them ends up paying for themselves, which surprised me. Certainly, I will say, initially when we were playing the battle, I felt like I was losing because all my Marauders just died to Blues. But when I actually stopped for a minute and realized what was happening, I was like, oh no, that's a good thing. They just wasted most of the Blues ammo, it killed some of them, and given the cost, that's cost effective for them. I mean, if we look at the value of the Marauders here, on the face of it, none of them paid for themselves, but again, wasting a lot of the Blue shooting is a great use case for them, certainly. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this Chaos versus Chaos action. If you do like this sort of content, be sure to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification button. Every time I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.